This is Butterflies of Wisdom with your host, Wynn Charles. This podcast is designed to bridge the gap between the able-bodied and the disabled. We all have stepping stones on our path to success, and we hope you enjoy this path of learning about life from all perspectives.
Welcome to Butterflies of Wisdom, everyone. And today with me, I have Dr. Joanny Liu. Dr. Joanny Liu is going to talk about something huge that happens to all of us, especially when we play contact sports. Dr. Joanny Liu's expertise is in brain injuries and concussions and how to not necessarily get concussions. So without further ado, I'm going to let Jenny take it away.
Wow. Thank you so much for inviting me back on the show. I'm really happy to be here, Wynn, and I'd love to give your audience as much encouragement as possible because I truly believe that any kind of disability is in the mind of the beholder, okay? Not necessarily in the mind of the person who might be experiencing this thing, but definitely in the minds of other people who are around them and, who might for good reason might want to protect them, but at the same time, there's no progress when we're too afraid to actually start moving forward. And that's definitely true when we have a brain injury or a concussion. And when you are a prime example of someone who never said no, who never said never, who said that she couldn't do the things that she wanted to do. And that's the type of message that I love to hear and also want to condone.
Well, thank you for saying that because as you guys know, I don't know how much research you have done on cerebral palsy. And yes, you may have to Google what is CP on your phone, but one of the aspects of CP is a brain injury / a brain injury. So I got diagnosed with CP on June 22nd, 1987, and by the time June 24th, my brain had already read out. That doesn't always happen with CP, but brain injuries can happen with CP because CP is the lack of oxygen injury at birth. So I'm going to let Jenny continue.
Well, when it comes, you had mentioned right at the beginning about preventing concussions and or brain injury, and what's really important is to understand that the brain is a very emotional organ. And everybody talks about the reptilian brain, which makes us afraid, starts things going over to the sympathetic nervous system, which is our flight and fright thing. That type of interaction really starts getting bad if we have chronic fear of the things that are going on in our lives. I mean, fear is something that should be fleeting. That's normal to have emotions like that. But when they become a part of our life on a regular basis, that's when we really start making our brain much weaker than it should be. It's really because of the stress hormones and the stress chemicals that flood our brain and the rest of our body. And if it becomes a chronic thing, if those feelings become chronic, a feeling of helplessness definitely is involved there, then the body actually starts craving these chemicals, and that's how we get into a habit. And it's not a very good habit at all when we're living in a lot of self-doubt. So that's definitely a really big key in preventing a brain injury. Now, the thing is that the Chinese medicine tells us that each one of us is born with strengths and weaknesses. So we don't know what those strengths and weaknesses are until we're faced with a great problem, okay, with some sort of crisis. And so it's our response to that crisis that tells us where our strengths and our weaknesses are. If we're not responding properly, that is in a positive, constructive way to a crisis, then it can weaken certain parts of the body or wherever you happen to be weak in, okay? So we don't know which person is going to have a weaker brain or a stronger brain. We don't know which people are going to have arm injuries or leg injuries, foot injuries, neck injuries, shoulder injuries, even heart disease, cancer. We don't know who's going to have any of these things until they actually show up into our lives. But that's not the end of the story, okay? Just because you run into a situation where you start getting sick and your body starts weakening, it doesn't mean that's the end of things. That we can definitely start doing things in order to make ourselves stronger. And people like Wynn, definitely still using her brains, definitely still running her life the way she wants to, and of course, still running into challenges like we all do. And because she has faced her demons, so to speak, and stood up to them, all the better. Wynn is definitely a prime example of winning. I mean, even your name fits the way things should be. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying it. Now, I know a lot of kids are going back to school in the next couple of weeks, and I have a friend who has spoken to play school sports. And I know with football,
Wynn, I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Well, what I was saying is football is one of those things that can happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking of my friend yesterday who got football. How can we prevent the concussion when the kids are playing football, when these freshmen or at the high school level or the college level, prevent these concussions from happening?
Well, as I said, we can't predict which person is going to get a concussion. And really, concussions don't happen to everybody who play a sport. And that includes football. Even at the professional level, not every single one of these guys is going to get one. Just like not every single one of these people are going to get leg injuries or hip injuries, etc. So the only way you really can prevent something from happening is to be of even keel psychologically, mentally, and emotionally. Not allow things to interfere with the things that you want. It's okay to feel angry, upset at times, but let it go as soon as you can and start using that anger, for instance, to do something positive and constructive. If you're afraid of something, if you're worried about something, then, that's usually about something that might happen in the future. So we're using our imaginations in the worst way when we're worried about something, because we're worried about something that might happen in the future. And so what I usually do is get my clients to do a reality check. And they have to identify the things that they're worried about, for example, and see if it's real or not. And if it's not real, then to let it go so that we can stay on that even keel. And we have to eliminate things like that as they come, because we're not always aware of whatever concerns that we have. And so the thing is to deal with each one of these things that come up, whether you're angry about something or whether you're worried about something, and you deal with whatever the issue is, or you let it go, and you deal with it in a constructive and positive way. Now, as I said, there's no way that we can predict who will get a concussion, but if there is a concussion, even though, you're doing all these things that I just recommended, don't panic. Don't panic over a brain injury, because the brain is actually one of the few organs that we can change on purpose and consciously, because that's what neuroplasticity is all about.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's what neuroplasticity is all about. So we change it again through our thoughts and our emotions. And we definitely have a lot of hope for the best, okay? Because, in my clinic, I can guide somebody to go through certain exercises in order for them to build self-confidence, okay? So that's what I do. And the worry exercise is definitely one of those things. Now, the thing is that we have to keep working on our thoughts and our minds and our emotions because, what do we use the brain for? That's what we use for thinking. So we have to control what we're thinking. And, the usual advice that your MDs will give you about concussions, to rest totally for many, many days, even up to 2 weeks or more, both physically and cognitively. The research is showing is actually more detrimental, which I think is the reason why these days more and more people are suffering from the symptoms of post-concussion syndrome because of all this rest that is being prescribed. And really, rest is not a treatment. It's not a treatment. Being passive about concussion is only going to make things worse. So that's why I recommend that people actually get back on their feet and do as much as they can, when they can, as soon as possible.
Can I jump in here? Why are MDs saying that? Because coaches are not even pulling kids off the field, let alone sending them to the doctor or sending them to the school nurse. So why are MDs now saying you must rest with a concussion and be inactive? Because, as you said, neuroplasticity of brain is a key here.
Yeah, you're right. And that's a very good question. It's a very good question. It used to be that MDs or, even myself would say, just rest 1 or 2 days. And then somewhere along the line, in the last several years, I think it seems to be a human thing. Well, if a little bit is good, then more must be better. Until it got to a certain point where it's kind of ridiculous now. Because what I'm seeing are firsthand are kids staying in bed for days and weeks at a time, and they actually come out exhausted because they're sleeping too much. So, and they're sicker. They're not actually getting better. Doctors are telling kids to, forget the rest of the soccer season, the rest of the football season. Forget about school. Well, unfortunately, people can't forget about life. So, but there's been a growing body of research that is telling people that while some rest is good, too much is actually making things worse, and that there is absolutely no evidence that extended rest periods is going to make a concussion better. In fact, it's going to make things a lot worse or prolong it as well. So instead of taking up to a year to recover, which I also think from a professional and personal perspective, I think that's ridiculous. It really shouldn't take a year to recover, but they're now saying that if you don't recover in 18 months, then you've got concussion symptoms for the rest of your life, and all of that, of course, is ridiculous. And that really comes from the problem with 99% of the research that's being done out there about concussions and brain injury is all more looking at understanding concussions and looking at the outcomes of prolonged concussion symptoms instead of actually concentrating on treatment, which is what people want. So in my book, Heal Your Concussion, How to Quickly and Effectively Get Back in the Game, I have a step-by-step system inside there that will take you through it. And you don't need to take any expensive supplements or extra vitamins in order to get your brain back in gear. It's really about how to think. And the methodology is really quite simple because neuroplasticity isn't that hard either. And the thing is that we got all this great research on neuroplasticity and neuroscience and psychology, which isn't being used, unfortunately, by doctors. And I don't know what the reason is for this, but the thing is, again, I want to emphasize that purely rest is not a treatment, and that you've got to just simply get active. You've got to be actively involved in the healing process in order to get that brain back up to its functionality again.
Yeah. And I excuse the frog in my throat, you guys, but what I was going to say to Jenny is, yes, you've got to use the brain to its full capacity. And after you guys know, I'm actually switching to it, I'm actually in the process of finally getting training in something I enjoy. So I'm using a totally different part of my brain to do this journalism than I would teaching. Teaching is monotonous, quite frankly. And so I'm using a totally different part of my brain, which is growing my brain stronger, because doing a monotonous task over and over again doesn't help the brain.
Yes, you're very, very right. I mean, we've got to be learning all the time, and I'm not just talking about doing puzzles or crossword puzzles or doing math problems. Like, we've got to be actively seeking out the things that interest us, and that's when the brain gets really excited. It's the things that really make us feel alive that activates the brain, and therefore we have to be actively learning something instead of just doing puzzles or, I don't know, even playing video games. I mean, we've got to be actively doing things, doing different things, challenging ourselves, going out there, being brave, and just trying things out. If it doesn't work out, that's fine, okay? At least we learned that much. So we just have to keep encouraging ourselves to move forward in life, and that way the brain and the rest of the body will follow.
So you're saying just move when you get a concussion. Don't necessarily be good patient and listen to the doctors.
I think people have to start questioning their doctors about, well, why is this going to be helpful? And like I said, the research is out there. There's a growing body of research that shows that too much rest is actually detrimental. So you're hearing, if this is the first time you're hearing about it, well, that's good. It's probably about time that you did hear about it.
Yeah. What made you get into all this I know you have a very interesting story behind this.
Well, yeah. What intrigued me was what happened to Sidney Crosby, who's a star who plays for the Pittsburgh Penguins in the NHL. And he had his first major concussion in January 1st, 2011. And the thing is about him is that it took him 2 years to come back. That was 2 years of his life that he could never get back. And while that was happening, and his doctors were scrambling around for a different diagnosis, nobody knew what to do, nobody knew how to diagnose this. So around the same time, my own grown son actually got a very severe concussion, and he got his while he was playing men's soccer. And he was defending on one side of the field, and while he was doing that, he wasn't paying attention to what his other teammates were doing, and for some reason on the other side of the field, one of his teammates kicked the ball towards him. Well, my son was so busy defending that he had no idea that the ball was coming, so it hit him square above the ear on the right-hand side, okay? So he went down, and they picked him up, put him on the sidelines, left him there to figure things out for himself. And while he was gathering himself up, that's when he realized he had his eyes open, but he couldn't see. And it was like, oh, wow, I can't, imagine how horrible that must have been at the time. And thankfully, in 10 to 20 minutes, he doesn't know how long, his eyesight finally came back. And of course, at the same time, and I was saying, geez, I wish I had this healing process. I wish I could use it on a concussion. And oh my God, my son calls me up one night 2 weeks later, and he said, Mom, can you help me? And of course I said I would. And we started working the very next day, got him in for an intake, a very detailed one, and then started working with him. And he was definitely starting to make a lot of progress quite early. And let's see, so that was September when we started working with each other. November the 2nd, he was back playing indoor soccer at the beginning of the season. He never missed a day of work. He never missed a game of soccer. He went skiing all that winter in the Canadian Rockies, and he continued to play in his pool league. So life went on as expected. But the point I'm making is that don't be afraid of a concussion, that there is something that you can do about it. And definitely reading my books is a very good first step.
Well, definitely reading your book. And tell me, where can people find you? And I know that you have a website all about this stuff. And where can people find you? And how can people get a hold of you? Then, before I let you go, I'm going to ask you to ask me a couple questions about anything that you want.
Okay, let's see. Well, you can get a hold of me at drjoanny.com. And let's see, I'm going to find this. Okay. There is a special gift there for people who are interested in helping themselves or helping somebody else or just having something that for preventative measures, okay, that would be helpful. You can pick up something called Concussion Answers from a little ebook from my website. So www.drjoanny.com, that's drjoanny.com/concussion-answers for www.drjoanny.com/concussion-answers, okay? So that's where you can find me. And what did you say about questions?
Do you have any questions for me that you want to ask me at the end of this interview?
Well, how have you coped with all the surgeries that you've had?
Okay.
Was it scary for you? And what was
your surgery is my middle name. Surgery is my middle name, and I try to get, even though they didn't me, I try not to take any pain medication to the best of my abilities. I think the body, just like the brain, would heal itself naturally. So no, surgery is my middle name. If I had to go into another one, which I don't, I like everyone else. I mean, I've been under for 6 hours, under for 8 hours, under for, they've done medical malpractice on me, and it's not fun. But surgery is my middle name. I think that happens when a lot of the people with disabilities just get used to going under anesthesia and recovering, because surgery is our middle name. How we're going to fix the body and to explain is surgery.
How have all these surgeries helped you, especially the last ones?
The one that really helps is surprisingly my knees. Surprisingly, my knees helped. The back kind of helped. You guys know what went on in that one. And so my knees surprisingly got help. My feet surprisingly got help. And so that I have metal in my feet, metal in my back, metal in my knees.
So does any of that cause you pain right now?
I'm doing something stupid. It does. But no, because it's getting so deeply in my skin that when I'm doing something stupid, my knee is a sideways and it has the blades go up. But on a daily basis, no.
Okay, what do you mean by stupid?
By stupid. Like, if I'm not paying attention to my knee, sideways, then he pops out. The ligaments pop. I have a bad kneecap. I have bad knees. I've had those bad knees for 30 years. So when I'm not paying attention to my body, and my body's not in sync with itself and not in faction with itself, it can pop out. Then ligaments get all wonky and frustrated. That's the only time I feel the plates in my knees.
Okay, so you always have to be vigilant then?
With CP, you always have to
be aware.
With CP, it's, always an interesting trick.
Okay. So you always have, so you're very body aware. Interesting.
Oh, yeah. People know about that. Oh, yeah. And it happens to me, it happens to everyone with CP. They always have to be body aware, the aides have to be body aware. Oh, yeah. You have to be body aware.
So I guess, so being body aware, it really always comes down to what I say always, and that is that the body always follows the mind. So as long as you're aware, then you're safe then. Yeah.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
Went with treatment.
Yeah. Yeah, because even for us, I mean, even for me, if I'm not paying attention, I bump into things. Yeah, it can hurt a lot too.
Yeah.
So, the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm clumsy sometimes clumsy. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's interesting that you talk about concussion because a couple of months ago, full article came out how football isn't safe for the brain, and they were talking about you guys move after concussion, the brain can reset itself and reset itself. Joanny, rewiring and brain get electricity, and I'm a true believer in brain electricity. My brain reworks itself over the years with love and compassion and the correct therapies, and yeah.
Yeah, bravo. Yeah, you're definitely a living testament to this success. Yes, and you have a strong mind.
Still working on that, but I think that's a great way to end the interview. Just have your mind be fun and be body aware, then none of this would happen to any of us. And please get help as soon as you can. If you do get a brain injury or if you do get a concussion, please don't wait 2 weeks whether it's a concussion. Jenny will say the same thing. And please don't wait, and please try to get all the stress out of the way. And I definitely appreciate Joni's time. And what would be a closing thought for this interview?
Okay, my closing thought is, in order to proceed in life, you must strive to understand that nothing is handed to you, but what you seek has a price, an open mind to see it when it appears. So if you're searching for something, be sure that you really have an open mind, because that's the only way you're going to see it. Again, we're talking about the mind.
Yeah. Not physically seeing it, but with the mind's eye, you can do a lot.
That's very right. And I want to end it also with saying this about disability, that disability is in the mind of the beholder. I think it's, from my experience, I think that people who are so-called disabled have an easier time with it than the people who surround them who are so-called normal. And that if that person who is so-called disabled doesn't have a strong enough mind, then all that negativity rubs off on them. So you have to rely on your own mind to not pay attention to that word disability.
Yes, pay attention to the ability in disability. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll have all Dr. Jenny's information in the show notes. And this has been a fascinating discussion about how to prevent brain injuries and how to prevent concussions. And if you guys want more of Jenny's information, I can give it to you, or we can put it in the show notes. And I appreciate everyone's support, and as life goes on, trying to prevent brain injuries. And see you guys